Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pop Culture Spread, our fun weekly movie and streaming news show. Let's talk big news.
Let's do it.
Well, let's talk a bit of Deadpool and Wolverine, the big juggernaut that is still going, Jace. Box office milestone, Deadpool and Wolverine became top-grossing R-rated picture of all time. It has taken a Joker off the top mantle. This is to be expected. We were going to say, it was going to hit the $1 billion. It did. Yeah.
I think we predicted this weeks ago. I think it was a no-brainer. As long as the film was solid, it was going to do. This is an amazing achievement and would be a game changer for Disney. Because if you think
100%.
about this, Disney are not known for making R-rated films. And they took a punt on this, and it has come off in big dollars. It's currently grossed over $1 billion, Rick, but they reckon it's going to land about 1.3. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets to 1.4. But if you actually look at this, the total here of 1.086 million, that included from America that it made $516.8 million domestically, and then the further $568.8 million internationally. That is, no matter how you paint it, no matter how much they spent on this film, which was quite a lot as far as I'm aware, at $200 million, this thing is profitable.
Yeah, no questions asked there.
What does it mean for the future, though, Rick? And I think that's what's the most interesting thing about this story is, does this allow now for us to have more R-rated fare in the comic book genre under the Marvel banner?
There's probably two sides to this, yes. But do you think the success of this movie obviously was the drive with Ryan Reynolds? Could you do an R-rated Blade movie and be still as successful with what's going on with Blade at the moment,
Well, the Blade movie, that may not just ever happen. I think if it, on that subject alone, Rick, I would say there's a higher chance that we get a Blade 4 than we do get a Mahershala Ali Blade at this point. Because it's but yes, I think it's time and place. Yes, you're correct. This had a built-in money-making device called Deadpool and Wolverine. Just getting those paired together was going to guarantee, box office success.
Correct.
So, but yeah, how does it pan out in the future? I think it'll be very interesting. Because mostly R-rated movies under the Disney banner, you would see under, say, like, I saw Alien Romulus last night, and that was made by 20th Century Studios, which is owned by Disney now. So it's more likely to get R-rated movies in that pocket. But I would say, like you, I wouldn't want them to start trying to get that rating for whatever reason, coolness factor. I think the movie itself has to dictate what type of rating it is. See, something like the Thunderbolts, which is coming out, Rick, I could see that having a few swear words in it.
Yeah,
be a bit loose because the type of characters who they've got in that movie and all that kind of thing. But what a great success for Deadpool and Wolverine. And it's well deserved because it's damn funny. And I know you've seen this movie a couple of times. I've seen this movie a few times now. And it holds up. It's a grand piece of entertainment. And it gives you the feel goods. So
How long is it on for? How long is it running for in the cinemas still?
Well, if it's still doing quite well, and I believe it had a great weekend last weekend, I think soon as another couple of weeks. I think it's 6 weeks maximum. Now they'll want to release this in December digitally and to own. I would suggest before Christmas. This film will be out to digitally own. I would say it'll be on pay-per-view, like video on demand, by Halloween, I would suggest. So, it's a great story. It's well deserved. It's just nice to be able to talk about a positive story.
100%. And just quickly, we know it knocked Joker off, and we got Joker 2 coming out obviously this year.
No, I do not see the sequel to Joker unless it's an extraordinary film coming anywhere close to what Joker did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, on that too, within this story as well, it talked about what some of the biggest films were. What was interesting though, it has been the first Marvel Studios. Now, let me clarify that. Marvel Studios film to break $1 billion since Avengers Endgame.
Yep.
Now, Sony had Spider-Man No Way Home, which broke $1 billion. And that is pseudo a Marvel film, but it is run by Sony. So, yeah. I mean, Disney are having a good year with this and Inside Out too. They've had a couple of $1 billion back to back, so they would be very happy. I'm sure all the stakeholders are rubbing their little, mouse together.
Of course they are. All right, Jace, let's get into what's in other news. All right, let's talk a bit of Avatar news. James Cameron explains Avatar 3 title: more violence, more anger, and more hatred. Wow, this is interesting, and this is just the title. What's going on?
Well, it's really interesting. Is the fact that the title does evoke that very much, and it goes to the article to talk about that. But it is the way this franchise needed to go at this point to become fresh and more viable, is to see not only different bioatmospheres or bioenvironments of Avatar, as we got to see the reef people in the Way of the Water, that we're getting to see these darker type of elements of Pandora. And I like the idea. Yes, I want more violence. I want more anger. I want more hatred. I want the characters to be put under the most difficult situations. And I think this is right. And I think James Cameron, some of the things he wrote, and I'll just talk about a couple of things he did in this interview. One of the things he said is it took a long time, he says, to come up with the title for the film. Because he didn't want to give anything away, Rick. He didn't want to give the plot away. But it feels like this is kind of, what does fire mean? Yeah, fire does generally associate itself with hatred, anger, and violence. And then ash is about the aftermath of something, isn't it? When ash is usually because a fire's destroyed something and all that's left is ash. And what is after a violent scenario? What do you have? You have grief, loss, things like that. So I think with the title and with his interview recent of where he's taking this franchise, it's actually got me a little excited for next year to see what they're going to be doing with Avatar. And Avatar's not everybody's cup of tea.
No.
Not everyone is super in love with this franchise. But I do appreciate the franchise, and I do think Cameron, this is really his wheelhouse. Like the violence and the action and the stakes and everything else. So no, I think it's great that he wants to take his characters to dark places, and the fact that it hasn't been 11 years before the last one. It's good to see we're starting to get these films now come out every 3 years. I myself will be there, and you will be with me because I'll be dragging your ass to it. Is seeing Avatar: Fire and Ash, which is due out in cinemas December 2025. So about 14, 15 months away.
And it would just go like that, and they look spectacular on the big screen. And, and then they release, another 4-hour version or whatever he releases.
They are long films.
Yeah. Interesting.
I know he had spoken about recently that he would like to, he sees there may be opportunity in the future to take these movies, add more scenes into them, but then break them up like a Netflix series.
Yep.
So you can watch it in a long form as when all the movies. I mean, he's come out and said that he's got ideas for film 6 and 7
already.
Yeah,
and
with 4 now, well, they're working hard to tie up 3. They've already filmed most of 4 and 5, so these movies are going to keep coming out.
It's good. He didn't release much last week on D23. It was just really the title, and that was it. And he's keeping it pretty close, which is good.
All you need. You would say next year, Rick, we'll get a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And D23 footage, trailers, all that good stuff will probably come out then next year. But I am excited for that. But I'm actually more excited about the next story.
Yes, I know you are, Jace. Let's get into the next story. Now, I know, Jace, you are a big Masters of the Universe fan, and we have some news. Just a little bit. Riverdale Armel Camila Mendez armors up as Tila for Amazon's He-Man film. Now, you must be very excited about this because we haven't had a live
last
action
time
one.
I've seen He-Man on the silver screen was in 1987's He-Man and the Master of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren. Bit of a misfire. There are elements of that movie which are really great. I've gone blank on the amazing actor who passed away recently, but the guy played Skeletor was fantastic in the film of that. However, okay, you're thinking, who is this girl? Riverdale? I don't watch it.
Never heard of it.
Who cares? Who is she? It's not the story. The story is that this film is even getting made, and secondly, who's behind it. Now, this is why I'm really excited about this film, because who behind it is actually Travis Knight. Now, you go, well, who's Travis Knight? Kubo, he's responsible for Kubo and the Two Strings, one of the great stop animation films of all time. He's also the director of Bumblebee, which I believe is the best Transformers out of it. He's directing this. They've got that big Amazon dollars behind it. And it makes sense that they're doing this film under Amazon because it will get a theatrical release.
It will. Good.
But then it will go on to Amazon Prime shortly after. It's time to do this film again. Even though, it's a bit of a niche fan base, I would say. There's not that many of us, but there's enough of us that, we want to see a He-Man film. But in these days where anything is on the table, we're far more adjusted to see fantastical things like a Battle Cat and an even, Skeletor and these really outrageous looking characters and put them on the big screen. I think it's time to do it. I think visually you can make it look absolutely fantastic. And I think with the right filmmaker who they've got, we're going to get something that might be very visually refreshing and something enjoyable to watch. It harkens back to, there was a period in the 80s, Rick, where sorcerer, like barbarian films were all the rage. There's Beastmaster. Yeah, there's bloody Conan films. The list goes on and on and on and on. And I think it's time to bring back that genre. I'm delighted that we're finally going to get it.
I think it needs to be done, and it needs to be done well.
Well, I think it needs to be. I think there's always an element of cheese in the franchise itself. I mean, He-Man's wearing, furry underwear, like and that's all he wears with the thing over his top. But you got to do it. Like, just go all in on this and embrace for what it is. And I think you can have some fun with it. And I hear this actress is quite good. I think they're going really smart by avoiding mostly big names because, like Alien Romulus, which I watched last night, I didn't know any of those people that were in that film, but they were really good. They were good actors. They knew what to do. So you could focus on the character themselves rather than the big name.
Have they casted anyone for He-Man?
Yes, He-Man was cast a while ago. Now, I don't know this lad much, but again, he's
a no-namer.
Quite respected actor. Just bear with me. Nicholas, excuse me, Kalatzine.
Okay, no.
As Prince Adam, aka He-Man. So he's a bit of a smaller lad. He's going to be great as Prince Adam.
You think he'd be like CGI?
Going to be something else for. No, I think it's just another actor.
That's going to like it.
Total sense. You might as well do that. I mean, if he's transforming from Prince Adam to He-Man, just get a big muscle-bound guy. Get John Cena, as far as I'm concerned. I don't really care. And He-Man is very one note as a character. He's your atypical Superman type of goody two shoes. So you don't need you don't really need the strongest actor in the world to play that element, but you do need someone who can handle themselves to do the Prince Adam element. Because if you don't get that right, Rick, this film is not going to work. And yeah, so I'm excited about the fact that we're even getting a He-Man film finally.
It's been a long
Hell,
time coming, mate.
it's a long time coming. And as you know, I should have put a picture up here. If you can go check it out on my Instagram and that. But you know, I'm collecting this stuff. I'm getting more and more all the time. I've got my
and it's true though. It's all coming back. It's just one of those circles that
very
comes back.
difficult to get figures here in Australia. The last figure I wanted, which was called Man at Arms, I actually had to get a friend from the US to buy it and then send it to me, which he did, thankfully. So, yeah, it gets a bit rough, but that's kind of a coolness factor about it too. When you can get things that are hard to get and you get them, it's kind of cool. But yeah, I'm excited about the film, mate. Can't wait.
I'm excited too, mate. Well, hopefully we get to see some footage soon. All right, Jace, let's get into a bit of Marvel news again.
Barely Marvel news. But
Barely, but anyway, I don't even know why this is an article. But anyway, Kit Harington won't pretend he took the role in Marvel's Eternals because it was different and interesting.
Yeah.
I think
it's
forgot about he was in this.
He basically just came out, Rick, and said, hey, look, the fact of the matter is Marvel called. And if Marvel calls,
you do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't take it because the character was interesting. I took it because Marvel wanted me to do it, so I'm going to do it.
And it didn't
and I don't
anywhere.
think they were ever looking at him as somebody that was going to head up its own individual movie. Maybe we'd have got a Black Knight Netflix, a Disney Plus series, but we know they're not doing all that stuff now. So I don't think we're going to see him back. I really don't think we're going to see him back. I think those times are done. I think there's more chance of us getting a Star Fox, Harry Styles coming back.
Oh,
and we're going to get Kit Harington, and we know we're not getting Harry Styles back. So I think of recent times, Rick, and I think you would agree, Marvel has had to reset the clock. They've taken a different approach. They pulled back, and they're now moving forward with a more structured, quality-focused agenda to Marvel Studios. So.
Eternals took a hit and wasn't very popular, and obviously, they're not doing the sequel now. So
no, but I stand by Eternals. I enjoy that movie. I enjoy that movie very much. I do think it has its place. And yeah, they just didn't make the money. People are not interested in those characters. No. However, did we really need to have a sequel at this point? Maybe not.
No.
Maybe not. No. We kind of got it. We do know, however, that things that happened in Eternals directly, Rick, play straight into Thunderbolts of all movies. So which is going to be fascinating. Well, it's the first time they're going to address the giant statue in the middle of the ocean. And we've seen footage of that. So it's kind of going to be great. I mean, Kit Harington, back to this Kit Harington guy, though. He's a competent actor. He's quite good. He's in a successful show at the moment. That what was that called? Industry, HBO's Industry, which is really good. Obviously, he made his name from Game of Thrones, is what we really know him for. And any big Game of Thrones fans, that they tried recently to get him to return as Jon Snow for a spin-off series in Game of Thrones. They just didn't come up with a story that was interesting enough to warrant it. So,
maybe he's got somewhere a role in Marvel calls again. Kit will be there.
Everything's ever since that announcement of RDJ, mate. I think everything is up.
Anything's possible.
Well, you've got your big guns back now. You've got the Russo brothers. You've got RDJ now heading up the next two Avengers films. So yeah. Hey, can I just say on a side note? You know what I binge watched on yesterday? Was it yesterday? Non-stop, watching it from beginning and end again. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
And the reason I went back and watched that, because that seriously directly leads into the next two Marvel films, which is Captain America: Brave New World and then Thunderbolts.
Yep.
And when I was watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier again, they really were laying down the connective tissue for the Thunderbolts there with Contessa and US Agent. And that was really setting up because we know he's part of the Thunderbolts team. And then obviously seeing the journey of Sam becoming Captain America. And man, you know what?
You enjoyed
Out
it?
of all the stuff out of it, that's a damn good series, 6-part series. I know we were getting them one after the other back then, but if you get the moment, if you got an afternoon when nothing's going on, go back. I absolutely will say this, Rick, you'll have to do it before the next 2 films because, like I said, it really lays down the pathway for these next 2 films. But it's damn good quality. Damn good quality.
Interesting. Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, it holds up better on the second view. Come on, man. How could you not love Baron Zemo going in the night?
Yeah.
You know, no, it's not just that. There are some amazing sequences. There's some really good storytelling. I think the racial element was a bit laid on too thick, but really overall, that series is one of their best series.
Is that one of the series that you've kind of gone back on? Like, you know, you watch these series and then you kind of forget them for a while.
Yeah.
Is there any other ones that, I mean, you wouldn't go watch She-Hulk again, would you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have debated that. I've debated going back and looking at it from fresh eyes.
Yeah.
I think we could all be guilty of having Marvel fatigue in that period.
Yeah.
Therefore, being far more critical and analytical over this stuff. And I've found that in recent times that I no longer have Marvel fatigue, that I'm able to go back, watch this stuff, and enjoy it more on the level that's designed for. So, yeah, man. You know, it's good television. I mean, no matter what,
that's
television,
it.
you know. I'm even thinking about going back to and revisiting Moon Knight because
I didn't mind
things I really loved
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but I really want to go back and have another look at that as well. So
awesome.
There we go. But
all right, guys, before we get into the next story, the train wreck, guys, I just want to remind you to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our videos when they are uploaded. And also, guys, you can hear us on audio podcasts on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and we're all good podcasts I've found. All right, Jace, let's get into the train wreck of the week. Buddy, who's on the train this week, mate?
I debated whether this was going to be our main story because this is huge. I don't know if you know anything about it, but one of the finest pieces of anything that's come out of Marvel in recent times was X-Men 97.
100%.
One of the most incredible seasons of animation I've ever seen. And it was very much thanks to this man here, Beau DeMayo, who wrote the first season and I believe wrote a lot of the second season, really crafted a wonderful storytelling and was an excellent job. But he got himself fired back in March for inappropriate behavior. Now, that's how it was left. Marvel decided to part ways and leave it that is. However, Beau decided to make a few statements online recently and claimed, Rick, that he was terminated from his job due to him sending out an Instagram post of him as a half-naked, he was just wearing Superman kind of shorts, but he was naked. There's a drawing of him in Cyclops Happy Gay Pride Month, right? And he's claiming that Disney fired him based upon that, which I think came to a shock to all of us because Disney, for whatever reason, has been very almost over the top being, diversity and acceptance, like really pushing that agenda down everyone's throat. So it was really shocking. Well, that seems very hypocritical that Disney fires someone for celebrating Gay Pride Month, yet, a lot of their content is really focused about accepting all communities. And a lot of people got up on arms. Enough that Disney, because by the way, he's suing Disney. This guy's suing Disney for wrongful termination and unfair and harassment.
Okay.
The fact that Disney had to come out and respond and say, look, the reason this guy got fired is that he had several incidents of inappropriate behavior in the office, touching, like grabbing guys by the groin, sending naked pics to his colleagues, because Beau also has an OnlyFans.
There it is. There it is.
So this is what's happening. but it raises, and it's a train wreck because he's come out and just, eviscerated and kind of tried to manipulate the story. Where really, if you're suing Disney, like the biggest corporation in the world, maybe shut your mouth and let the lawyers do their job, which he couldn't do. Now, at the end of the day, it raises very many questions for me. Number one is, and I think the most thing is, who's vetting your candidates? If you're hiring somebody, right, and you have a very strong moral code and expectations of this person, who's doing the vetting? Right? Who's making sure that that person that they hire is going to fit within the Disney brand? I'd say there's an egregious error there. They're not doing that right. It also raises another question to me, Rick. Like, okay, there were recent these posts, but Disney has had problems with this in the past. Remember James Gunn wrote a tweet 11 years ago, very bad joke, kind of inappropriate, back when James Gunn was young and edgy, making films like Slither. That tweet has been in the ether for 11 years, and then he was fired from it. So it raises very many questions for me in this scenario. What are the terms and conditions of being hired by Disney? And I think they need to change their philosophy. I think if you say, Rick, they've just given you whatever. You're now contracted to Disney. You're working for Disney. I believe the contract should be from the moment you sign the contract to the end of our agreement, you are expected to carry out your social media in an ethical and moral way that would not, however, right? And I would say they need to investigate, and if there are tweets or Instagram posts from the past, it would be part of your contract that you would take them down prior to taking the contract. I think that's fair and reasonable in a business scenario.
So was this Beau's own Instagram post that he did?
Yeah, it is. But we live in that world now, Rick. Like, okay, you're employed by somebody. Like, if you start putting up inappropriate images and a colleague finds them and sends it to your boss, we live in the world that you will be terminated.
Oh, 100%. There's always memos going out about your social media. You got to be careful.
Social media, absolutely. And I don't think that's a part of the case. I think what's really got people upset, though, is a damn good writer, Rick. Yeah. This guy knows how to write. And it's a shame that, in a way, from this perspective, he may have self-sabotaged his career here, which is kind of really disappointing. It also says that the modern world, we've lost a lot of our moral codes. We're supposed to accept everything and anybody, whatever does or who they want to be. We have to accept it. We have to kind of go for it. So we have that version of society. Then we still have the corporate world of society, which expects you to handle yourself in a dignified, moral-centered way. And this is going to be more and more of this because we allow these young people and go, you want to OnlyFans? Good for you. You're going to put up inappropriate, images of yourself and that. Good for you. So we support them on one hand and then we punish them on the other. And I think it's the madness of our current era.
Did Disney know that he had an OnlyFans account? Did they know any of that?
That's the question. And if they didn't, who was vetting him? As part of the recruitment.
Someone would have to be doing some background checks on all this.
You've got to be doing that stuff.
Has to be.
Now, OnlyFans isn't illegal. It's a completely legal way for you to go. So there's not an issue there, but it does bring into question, the moral side of things. Bad behavior. This is where I do find myself, because I'm an old white man, so you can say what you like, but I do find myself more on the corporate side of understanding than I am, because I do think at the end of the day, do handle yourself with dignity. And if you are in like this guy wasn't getting paid chump change. He made a good bit of coin for doing what he was doing. Then maybe just, behave properly in that period. But these young people feel like they can do what they want, say what they want, be what they want without consequences. Because we feed them that. There won't be consequences. But it's all horseshit, Rick, because life is full of consequences. You know what I mean? And I think this is going to get very messy. I do think this is an absolute train wreck of a story because, this is where dumb decisions cost a very talented writer his job. And Disney means like they're going to be under scrutiny now. If there's something we don't like about season 2 or season 3, we're going to blame it on the fact that we fired Beau. So, yeah.
People need to be held by their accountability. So for their actions.
That's the big thing that we have somehow lost recent times, and I think it's something that needs to come back in big battle way, is about accountability and consequence. You are free to do whatever you want in a Western world. It's one of the greatest privileges we have in living in countries like Canada, Australia, America, England, and that, where you could do what you want. But there was never a scenario where you could do what you want without consequence.
Well, the big allegations.
It will go through. It'll be embarrassing for everyone involved, I think. And it's just a damn shame. But I think we're going to see more and more of this. And I do think the pendulum will swing back, that you may have to behave a bit more conservatively, because if you want the money,
you got a
price, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like, if we were really our true selves, unfiltered, all of us, if we were completely unfiltered, if we spoke just how we thought, none of us would have jobs. None of us.
God, no.
We'd all be fired, right? Including our bosses would be fired, So it's just about handling yourself and, carrying yourself in such a way that you could do whatever you like between consenting adults behind closed doors. But think for a second, you can have an OnlyFans, and Disney wouldn't have an issue with that. Dude, you're high. You're high if you think that. And which is, to me, just it's not that dumb, Rick. They're arrogant.
Yeah.
It's a level of arrogance with that. So, anyway, that was the. Sorry?
When these allegations came out, was it during the season of?
Well, no. The thing is, it all came out in the wash in March. They fired him, but again, excuse me. This is his quote. Above is X-Men fan art I posted on Instagram for Gay Pride in June. On June 13th, he claims Marvel sent me a letter notifying me they'd stripped my season 2 credits due to the post. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter, but he was terminated prior to that. And maybe their lawyers went, you know what? He keeps doing this stuff.
Yeah.
No. And by then, if you're fired from Disney and then you're he's calling it fan art, which is a gray area again, because you're employed to create that series. And then you've done drawings after you're fired, representing yourself as a Marvel character, but half naked. Where's the legal ownership over that comes? Now, he's chosen the word fan art to hopefully legally get around that. But it'll be really interesting in the court case to see this has happened. And just to quote Disney, Mr. DeMayo was terminated in March 2024 following an internal investigation.
Yeah.
Given the egregious nature of the findings, we severed ties with him immediately, and he has no further affiliation with Marvel.
Okay.
That's a strong statement.
Yeah, something is more to it. Those allegations are pretty strong. So, with what he's done. Well.
There we go, Rick. Rick.
Train wreck of the week. That was a good train wreck.
The OnlyFans you were thinking of starting, Rick?
I better terminate mine now. Jeez. On that note, it's not doing very well either. On that note, guys,
I owe money.
You can catch myself and Jace, obviously, on this channel every week. All the links are down below, and there's a big backlog of catalogs there of all the videos that we've done, so go check them out. Hundreds we have done, so go check that out. Jace, anything else you want to cover before we go? You're all good?
Not really. Yeah, you can find me all around the place. Check me out on Instagram and on TikTok. Then you'll see where I am everywhere else. But most importantly, we'll be back next week for some more news.
We'll see you guys then.
Thanks for watching. If you could do us a massive favor and hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. Also, come and check out us on all our social media accounts and keep up to date. And if you're looking for some clothing, you're needing some merch, we've got you covered at the Pop Culture Spread store.